Now let's preview the Super Bowl. I'm delighted to say we've got Mike Carlson with us this morning. Mike, how you doing?
Okay. Yeah, I've got to watch that video, I suppose, from the snap. It's probably pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I think all our helmet jokes made it in, so the edits weren't too severe.
Yeah. I'm wondering about this drinking a cup of coffee before you start the match, though. I mean, how do you make it till halftime?
Yeah, well, you probably don't have to. You can take a break. Certainly in American football, you can just do it right
Slide
down the
into
sideline.
the blue tent,
That's what it's for, right? Come here. When last we spoke, you hadn't yet made your mind up about whether or not you were going to come down on one side or the other. Have you finalised your pick for this game yet, or what are the?
I'm pretty much leaning into the 49ers now. It'll be on Friday. I'll do it for sure. But I think as I add things up, it's probably going to be the 49ers. I have to say, I went back. I've been picking every game of the season, for NFL UK or on my Patreon site for 15 years now, and I'm 6-8 in the Super Bowls. I've done relatively well for the rest of the seasons, being over 2/3, but 6-8 on Super Bowls. So I would take whatever I say with a grain of salt. And honestly, I think this is the best balanced Super Bowl. I can see it going any number of ways, but it's so close that, if you were gambling it, I would probably say avoid the point spread, take the money line where the odds would be better for you, because, it could well be a very close game, but I think when a team wins, it's actually going to be by more of a margin than that 1.5 points.
That makes sense, that people can't make their minds up, but that when one team actually asserts dominance, that it's unlikely to be a single point swing at the end. When you say you've maybe not necessarily had a great record picking, what I hear is regression to the mean, and so therefore you're going to start getting more right over the next while. As a Niners fan here, I'm hanging my hat on that. Come here, why are you leaning into the 49ers? What is it that over the last couple of weeks has made you think, actually, I can see how these teams match up?
I was looking back at the season, and they've basically been in every game. They had that loss to Seattle, which they could have won with a made field goal. And Kansas City has been more in and out. They lost a game to Green Bay that they probably should have won. They won a game in New England that they probably should have lost. And I can just see this scenario whereby the Niners defense is able to hold them in check enough to let their offense score some points. If it's a big high-scoring game, then Kansas City, I think, is probably going to win. Even though you look at that New Orleans-San Francisco game where it was basically a shootout, but they required George Kittle to make one huge play in that game in order to win it. The difference between the teams, I think, is more consistency from the Niners and the big play ability of Kansas City, and that's what they have to keep in check. It's really going to be Tyreek Hill or McCole Hardman or maybe somebody else, if you're over defending those two guys who stretch the field on you. But that's where Kansas City holds the advantage on them. I think I said during the snap thing, I was trying to figure out how you cover those two guys with the defensive backfield they have, and I was suggesting that I might put Richard Sherman on Travis Kelce. As I think about it, I think they do a very good job of messing up the middle for teams because their linebacking is very quick. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are both very quick. And looking at teams that have done well against the Chiefs, Kelce is really the third thing you have to worry about, because as long as you keep him in front of you, then you can give him his catches and even his yards, but you're not going to get burned for a lot of touchdowns. And once you get into the red area, Hill and Hardman are much less effective because you can't stretch the field when you're inside the 20-yard line, and that's where your defense then can try to concentrate on Kelce, try to concentrate on the secondary receivers, stop the run. I think it's a fascinating chess game, and we're talking about the young quarterbacks coming in, but it's also, in a sense, a battle between old coaches in terms of Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo on one side, Eric Bieniemy, and young coaches, Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh on the other side. Yeah, and I'm I'm not a huge believer in that the experience is that important, but certainly Kyle Shanahan's experience in that 28 blown lead Super Bowl against the Patriots for Atlanta is going to register here. And I think I said yesterday on another show, I think if Kansas City get to 30, they can win. I think if you hold them under 30, then the 49ers have a very good chance of winning, which is pretty much the same thing I said about Atlanta against the Patriots.
And which was right.
Turned out that way.
Yeah.
Do you think Andy Reid is, I'm not sure, is he the best coach to ever won a Super Bowl, but certainly one of the more legendary, one of the coaches with the most narrative around him, and just kind of like, could he be a potential Hall of Famer here? Like when you talk about the people who are in his company, the amount of wins that he's had as a coach, it is astonishing that he hasn't got a Lombardi Trophy yet.
Yeah, I think he's the second best coach to never win a Super Bowl. Bud Grant of the Vikings being first on my list. I think he's a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame eventually. He has been a very good coach for a long time. He's very, very good at team building. He's a great offensive mind. He continues to adjust and to adapt. In this case, they knew. I think they knew what they had in Patrick Mahomes. They didn't hesitate to get rid of Alex Smith and go to him when the opportunity came up. And really, the only negative on Andy's resume is that he hasn't won the big one. It's not the only. The second negative is that he's traditionally not been a great game managing coach. He's had problems managing the clock, controlling the ball, not knowing when to hurry up, not knowing when to slow down. But this year, the Chiefs have been much better at that, although all the things about possession, a lot of people are saying, well, 49ers run the ball well. If they can run the ball, keep Mahomes off the field, they can win. The problem with Patrick Mahomes is he doesn't need to be on the field for 5 minutes to get a touchdown. He can do it in a minute and a half if he has to, which we saw in the playoffs against the Texans.
Yeah, that bit doesn't really... Like, the 49ers could have 40 minutes possession and they could lose this game in a blowout because Mahomes can have 3 passes touchdown, 2 passes touchdown, 1 pass touchdown.
And that's what makes it such a difficult game to call. It's really down to how much faith you have in Patrick Mahomes being able to do that, or how much faith you have in the 49ers being able to stop him from doing that. And if you stop him passing, then we saw 2 weeks ago that he'll run the ball on you and take advantage of that. And people go back to how spectacular that run is, and really the most impressive thing about it was how amazingly aware he is of what's going on the field around him and where the opportunity lies. And, when he took that run, it wasn't like, I got to get out of here and do something. He was sitting there waiting. And when he didn't have a pass, it was, well, I've got that left-hand lane I can take. I'm going to take it now because there isn't going to be any pass open.
I actually think that the play in the previous game against Houston, where there's a similar run to the left and he toe drags to make sure he doesn't break the plane of the line of scrimmage and just flings the ball to Kelsey, who the one part of Kelsey's body it's in the end zone that he's going to score the touchdown. That's, to me, is actually an even more impressive one because it shows all of that kind of awareness, lateral movement, ability to throw at the same time. And to be honest, I can't see any way to slow that down. I can't see any way any defense in football at the moment, not just the 49ers, how anybody could stop him, that he's kind of cresting to a level that is Kobe Bryant-esque, is like Leo Messi, is Michael Jordan. It just feels like this is the coronation of a new king in world sport that we're going to watch this weekend, and that's why I think the most likely result is that he will carry that team to victory.
Oh, and there's the 49ers fan saying, I can't. It's hard to argue against that. And like I said, my defense on this would be to sell out to stop them getting the big play. Try to keep everything underneath, and then figure that once they get into the red area, you can keep them more under control. And that's it. On that run you're talking about with Mahomes, if the NFL had VAR, it probably would have been overturned.
Maybe. It did look like he just had enough awareness.
Oh, Yeah, it's weird. The offside rule should be like that. You only have to have one little part of your body onside to be onside rather than the other way around.
Exactly. It would transform the game and make everybody much more happy about it because you could actually see the evidence of it with your own eyes. From a defense perspective, just very briefly on this, how do you sell out? Like, what does that mean to make sure that those big plays aren't gone? It's like you have you double team Tyreek Hill. You match up physically against Travis Kelce and you hope that whatever corner is on an island against Hardman or Sammy Watkins can survive?
That's pretty much it. If you stay in zone, if you play, say, 3 deep in the zone, then they will kill you underneath because it's really hard, especially Travis Kelce. He just finds the area in his zone so well. So you have to double Tyreek Hill or at least have a safety behind who's ever covering him. And then the question is, do you trust your other guy to run with McCole Hardman, who's probably not going to beat you by himself, but all he needs to do is 1 or 2 plays, and that's pretty much all they ask of him in terms of the passing game. If you look back, he doesn't have many multiple catch, more than 3 or 4 catches a game all season long, and then. What they took against the Patriots in the conference championship last year, what they took in the playoffs this year, is Damian Williams or somebody coming out of the backfield because you're playing everybody deep to stop that. So the swing pass or the wheel route out of the backfield will work for them. They might even try running the ball. But San Francisco, I think, both these teams, will probably stay pretty much in a 4-man front, not blitz too often, and their 4-man fronts will be probably, in San Francisco's case, sufficient to stop the run. In Kansas City's case, because there's so much influence and misdirection in San Francisco's game, I don't know if their line will be quick enough to cope with that particularly well. It'll be interesting to see which guys play because I think we'll see a lot less of the big beefs like Mike Pennell and a lot more of the smaller, quicker guys up front.
Mike, enjoy your trip to Miami. I hope you have a great time and the weather's a bit better than it is here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think I've lined up a bar for Ireland, Scotland on Saturday morning. And Saturday morning is a really civilized time to watch rugby.
Yeah, we should maybe try and get the kickoff times fixed for it. Mike, great stuff. Thanks a million.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Carlson giving us some thoughts there ahead of the Super Bowl, which kicks out. Is 11:40 kickoff on Sunday night?
Something like that.
It's late.
What's your plan?
I went to bed before the conference championship game and got up, and that worked all right. So go to bed, get up.
Get up for the second half.
I'm getting up for the whole thing.
Well, obviously, but...
yeah, I mean...
But like I'm talking about a 5 o'clock alarm.
Well, last year I just took the day off. But,
well, obviously, if you're somebody who gets up at a regular hour, of course you get up for the full thing. But for a 5 o'clock alarm, second half only, I think.